Now on the legal team, the suspended South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, Andrew Chauke, led by the senior counsel, Advocate Nkabinde, will now have to wait until Monday to begin their cross-examination of the National Prosecuting Authority boss, Shamila Batohi, at the Nkabinde inquiry. Get the latest now from Newzroom Afrika's Nkabinde Batlala. Nkabinde, good morning. Proceedings delayed today. What happened?
Well, a very tense Nkabinde inquiry, Stephen. In fact, as we started off, there was a lot of delay with regards to the lawyers going to the chambers. You could see that there was a lot of discussion around this cross-examination. Even though it wasn't unclear, you could see that it was quite tense. When they started, then we saw Justice Nkabinde starting with ironing out the wrinkles, really. So you'll remember that yesterday there was a conversation, or rather a back and forth between her and Advocate Shamila Batohi, where they were trying to iron out whether or not she was told, and this is Advocate Shamila Batohi, if she was told that she will not cross-examine. So today we started by hearing Justice Nkabinde asking for the apology with regards to that. She says that there was a conversation that happened when they left the area and just outside where they work, and there was a conversation with regards to that apology coming from Advocate Shamila Batohi, saying that she had got things wrong. It's understood that she had thought that there would be no cross-examination. She was only going to give testimony, which we had seen had taken over 2 weeks, and she was not going to be cross-examined. So let's listen in as she was asking for that apology.
When I stepped out of this podium, Advocate Batohi whispered to me, asking for an apology. Am I correct?
No, Chairperson, I wanted to apologize to you. I apologized again to you to say I'm sorry about what happened. I didn't intend it to be taken in a bad way. And I, in fact, should not have mentioned what was discussed in chambers, so I was apologizing for that.
It is not about you mentioning what we discussed in chambers. It's the content of what we discussed. So were you apologizing because you misrepresented what was discussed in the telephonic discussion between me and you, or you were apologizing for something else?
Chairperson, I was apologizing for the fact that I mentioned the issue of cross-examination.
Stephen, that's happening in the seat of the inquiry. Now, we understand that outside of that, one of the issues that we actually discussed now was the fact that the NPA now wants to represent itself. Now, you'll remember earlier this week, they actually did ask for an audience to speak to the inquiry. However, the inquiry doesn't work like that. The inquiry works with regards to having the evidence leader that is probing, that is basically speaking in terms of the testimony and trying to lead the evidence with regards to Advocate Shamila Batohi. However, we know that the NPA does feel that at this point, their legal representative, Advocate Hali Senior, is actually more versed with regards to what has happened, what has taken place, having worked also in some of the work that was taking place with regards to the Zondo Commission. You'll remember that the NPA was one of the areas that were actually discussed at length with regards to whether or not there was capture, which is one of the things that Advocate Shamila Batohi has said that has given her a lot of pressure when she was taking place in 2019, when she was taking her office in 2019, talking about the fact that it was important for them to thoroughly look at these cases to ensure that high-profile cases were not actually exempted from being prosecuted. Now we're hearing that the NPA is actually asking to be the one that they speak on their own behalf instead of having the evidence leader. Furthermore, they've also asked to ensure that there's widening scope or in terms of the terms of reference. Now, we know when they started that they actually said that they were looking at just two cases, which was the Johan Boysen case as well as the Mdluli matter, and looked at whether or not Advocate Chauke had conducted himself accordingly with regards to the code of conduct as well as the policy of the NPA. Now they've asked for that to be widened, and we are told that that letter now sits with the minister. Listen in.
The matter regarding the amendment of the terms of reference, as we discussed in chambers, that aspect was dealt with here at the open hearing. We have looked at the transcription. We read it to you in chambers. And despite the fact that there was an indication that two options are open, either by way of a substantive application to us, if we are to consider your request for amending the terms of reference, you should do that. Alternatively, for the MPA to then approach the president as they did at the initial stage.
Well, Stephen, we are then going to hear that cross-examination taking place only on Monday, and we are told that it's not going to be the whole day, as we understand that Advocate Shamila Batohi has to go to a meeting in Johannesburg.
Nkabinde, thank you very much indeed for that update. Some curious events at that particular inquiry.